You're listening to DadBods, DadBoss, the podcast where we tackle ins and outs of business
and tech, streamline your work-life balance, and navigate the journey of being a dad in today's world.
I'm Shane.
I'm Q. And Eric is here too.
And every week we bring you tips, tricks, and healthy dose of dad wisdom.
Ready to boss your business and your life. Let's dive in. All right, guys. Welcome back to DadBods, DadBoss, the show where us real dads talk real business and real life. Guys, I'm Q, one of your co-hosts, and we are a man short today. But however, we have the famous,
here we go,
Mr. Bird himself.
He's got what is that? The cockatoo and the pelican.
Oh, mate, yeah. And a kookaburra, mate.
And the kookaburra, yeah.
There would have been more, but, you know, I had to marry someone sensible and it stopped me from going around to all the tables.
I was packing up the tables, mate, and I picked up the box. Oh, this box feels light. It's like 3 birds light. I was like, what's going on? I need a few more feathers in here. And sure enough, the pelican, the kookaburra, and the cockatoo, one of the cockatoos was missing. I couldn't put my finger on it.
So, guys, if you don't know, Mr. Bird himself got married a couple of weeks ago. He was kind enough to invite me and Carly down, or Carly and I down, and you know, as a running joke, as you guys know, every week Mr. Bird has a different type of bird, and on the tables, I loved it. There was each table was bird theme and had an ornament of each particular bird on the table, and I couldn't help myself, but I had to pinch a few, mate.
Look, in all honesty, I was disappointed you didn't go for the whole collection.
Mate, there's still time. I might come visit your place.
They're in a box right behind this media wall. They're actually in the box.
I love it, mate. Love it. So, mate, before we get into it, 2 weeks as a newly married man again. What's new?
Well, nothing, because it was actually our first wedding anniversary anyway, so nothing changed. Woke up in the morning, had a row, had an argument, decided about, you know, what we're not going to do, and had some make-up sex, and then come down and had breakfast. Just a typical Sunday morning in our house, mate.
Yeah, that's it, you know. Life.
I joke. Nah, it was really good, mate. It was really good. So yeah, it was our 1 year anniversary, because we got married obviously back in New Zealand, same day, 12th of April. So we thought, why not do it for all our Australian friends, which was really cool. Really cool. The one in New Zealand was really small, and then this was a bit more bigger, as a bit more of a traditional big wedding at a big place. So awesome venue, and like we were just talking about, really cool service and everything there. The meal and everything was awesome. So really cool to be able to do that and celebrate with you guys and have everyone come down. I know, you know, you guys had to shoot off that night, and there was a lot of other people had to squeeze it in their busy agendas. So just really grateful that everyone that could come made it down and made a massive night out of it.
Oh, mate, it was definitely a great night. And, you know, yeah, we did have some other things planned, but we shuffled them just so we could be there. It just meant we had to drive home that night. Otherwise, we would have stayed. But, mate, I tell you what, best drive ever, because everyone was passed out from all the dancing.
And you just put on some DadBods, DadBoss podcast, and that's what made them pass out.
Yeah, that's it. Hey guys, let's play this.
Oh, classic.
Oh, classic. And you know, guys, if you don't know, like, it's whenever you listen to this, it's kind of like the Easter weekend, right? And on the East Coast down here in Australia, you know, we've had some really, really big swell hitting the East Coast here, and we're diving into a really, really tough one, right? Tough topic to chat around, or, you know, potentially could be tough, because over the East Coast here, over the Easter period on the East Coast here in particular, you know, we saw record drownings, right? Record drowning numbers as a result of these massive swells that battered our coast. And despite all of the warnings that were put out there on the news, social media, even the surf lifesaving clubs, people keep heading out, right? And unfortunately, some didn't make it home. So it made me ponder, made me think, like, why do we risk it? Why do we keep putting ourselves at risk, even when we know the dangers? You know, is it a sense of bravado? Is it denial? Is it it's not going to happen to me, or is it something deeper? So, you know, we're gonna dive into this. We're gonna have a chat, and we're gonna see where this, like, I guess, comes out, because we want to kind of like bring light to this so that more people can still enjoy the coast, but also make it home. So, you know, starting off with the facts, Shane, like Australia recorded the highest number of drowning deaths in recent memory, right? So, uh, and the thing was, it's just in a couple of days. But we had like beach swimmers, we had rock fishermen, we had like all types of drownings, right? Not just your standard holiday at the beach kind of stuff. So we want to know, like, us Aussies here, we love being in the water. It's part of our DNA. But why do we keep pushing the boundaries? Why do we keep pushing the limits when there's warnings everywhere? Is it, you know, in Australia, there's a saying of, you know, whenever there's something tricky or challenging that comes up, you know, there's an attitude of, she'll be right, right? She'll be right. It's all good, mate. So I want to like start off with you, like Shane, like, is it a case of like Aussie bravado? Because we are known to have like a sense of bravado, you know, she'll be right, nothing's going to happen to us. Is it that, or is it a risk-taking culture that, you know, is starting to influence our decisions as dads and business owners? Or is it like, you know, I'd love to get your kind of like take on society regarding this kind of scenario, mate.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably hard to answer it one way because there's so many different reasons why, you know, these people, I guess, were out. I'd probably be more curious to know what sort of age bracket they were in, or what demographic they were in, like male, female, ages and stuff like that. Because it could be that bravado, like you talk about, like, oh, out with the boys, out with the mates, especially young guys, you know, teenagers trying to prove themselves or show off or something in front of their mates. So that could have I would say that potentially could be a big part of it, and being a little bit more, watch me, I'll show you. And I guess the other thing is then, even with that, which it could even go a little bit into some of the other people that were maybe that unfortunately lost their life, was to go out to witness it so that they had the story to tell people, because there's that classic one-upmanship, you know, that goes around where someone tells a story and then someone's got to tell another story that's better than their story. So maybe that's another thing, that people go out and go, oh, I want to get close to the action so that I can say that, oh, I was right there and I watched the wave do this, I watched the bridge collapse and potentially just so they've got a better story, which, I mean, if you want to go into deeper reasons, it's so they feel more significant potentially. If I've got the bigger story, I'm more significant. So then people will talk to me, so then I feel more connected, have more friends, or feel like I'm a better part of the community or part of the group of friends and stuff, which comes back to the Tony Robbins human needs that we've spoken about before. You know, there's a need for connection, a need for significance as well. Or maybe it is, you know, maybe it is a need for that variety, the uncertainty, like that's another one of the needs, which is where we get the brave young fellas or the brave young people trying to go out and have that bravado and go, oh, watch this, and have that sense of variety in their life. And unfortunately, maybe they just got taken by surprise and got swept away or something crazy like that. So can't really put it all down to one thing. It could be a number of things, but everyone's got their own different reasons. But yeah.
And sorry for cutting you off, mate, but, you know, like, you know, I'm just trying to language it as well. Like, so, you know, would you say another word for significance is ego, right? And wanting to inflate that, and, you know, be the man, you know, like as the male culture is here in Australia, you know, to an extent.
Yeah, I would say that's got a bit to do with it as well, is to be the top dog. You know, I want to stand out. I don't want to be the bottom dog, because if I'm the bottom dog, I'm the weak one that gets swept away by the wind. And now, unfortunately, maybe by trying to be the top dog, I got swept away by the wind and the water. So potentially, for some people, that would be what it is. Maybe it's a way to prove themselves to their peer group, to their inner circle or their group of mates and stuff like that. Again, unfortunately, we'd never really be able to ask some of them, unfortunately, the ones that, you know, did unfortunately lose their lives.
Yeah, 100%, mate. And you know, like a couple of years ago, right? You know, what do I do? Like, I usually go paddleboarding once or twice a week. And a couple of years ago, Saturday morning was my time, right? And, you know, if you don't have this app and you're a beach goer, there's an app called Surfline. And, you know, I'm just fortunate enough, Terrigal Beach has a camera there, so I can see the surf. right? And then this one Saturday, I checked the surf, right? And it looked real big, right? And things are always bigger in real life as well. So it looks big on camera. It's gonna be massive, right? And then so Carly was like, "Oh," I woke up. Carly's like, "Oh, you going for a paddle today?" It's like, "Oh, nah, the surf looks pretty big out there." And in a roundabout way, she said, "That's why are you such a wuss?"
Don't be a pussy is what she said.
So then I'm like, then the ego kicked in. I'll show you who's a wuss. I went out there, went out to the bend, bumped into one of the Carly's friends. I'm just standing there observing the ocean. I was like, I'm going, man, that's pretty big, right? And then her friends, doing the beach walk. She stopped by, have a chat, and then she goes, "Oh, you're not going out, are you?" And then I was like, "Oh, well, Carly called me a wuss, so I'm gonna go out." So I went out. I got past the massive swell. It took me like forever to get past the massive swell, right? And then I was like, "Oh man, I'm exhausted." And then on the way in, right? On the way in, I tried to catch a wave. I got dumped, right? But because the swell was so big, and not many people know this, like when the water breaks and becomes bubbles, it's actually harder to get up because it's the same density as air, right? So you can't paddle, can't paddle up or swim up. So I'm trying to swim up. Take me forever. I swear, I kid you not. It felt like I was gonna like pop out. I felt like, here we go. I'm gonna swallow some water. Finally got up. Same time as I had to open my mouth, and then took in a big breath. Looked around. Another wave came. Got under again, and eventually I got back in. Right. I eventually got back in. Same thing, same kind of like motion, getting in. The right leg got stuck in some sand. The wave hit, took the board that way. My body went that way, and then I tore my meniscus as well. Right. So I share that because, like, I'm fortunate. I acknowledge. I'm like, I acknowledge that I'm one of the lucky ones who got out. Right. But I also learned that if you know something doesn't feel right, you just got to trust your instinct, no matter who or what like tells you otherwise, because your sense of safety and your sense of danger best, right? So like, and that's just an example of like just outdoors, right? But sometimes we ignore this warning, right, in our business life as well, right? Has there ever been a time for yourself, Shane, where you've ignored like a warning, whether it's in business or in your other areas of your life, and what happened?
Oh, well, as you're telling your story about the ocean, reminded me, and I don't want to one up you. I don't want to one up you, but I got a similar story. when I was in the army, we were in East Timor, and we used to go down the beach every now and then and go for a swim down there. So we didn't have the paddle boards; we were just body surfing. And same thing, like it was quite swelly. Some of the other boys were out there, but it was that bravado of, "Oh, come on, you'll be right. Let's go swimming." Now I don't want to like really one up the story, but there were crocodiles swimming around there too. All right, okay, not that day, but there were quite often.
You win, mate. You win.
But same thing. I got dumped like very much how much you described it, and then scrambled up and got dumped again, and it scared the shit out of me. I remember getting like what they call a scorpion when you get bent right over backwards and everything like that. And it did actually scare me. And I guess that was a sort of a wake up of like, shit, maybe I should. And because my gut was saying the same thing. I don't know if this is a good idea, Shane. Like some of those guys spend a lot more time in the water and all that kind of stuff. And then sure enough, I got plastered. And I remember thinking after that, like, yeah, listen, like you said, listen to your gut a bit more and actually follow through on that. So, yeah, that was a moment there. In business, I guess nothing. Just trying to think of something really stands out. Maybe not so significant, but maybe some little things. And I can't put my finger on anything in particular, but there's definitely times where, maybe an opportunity presents itself. You're like, oh, should I or shouldn't I? And I think if you do trust your gut, like it's easy to get in your head and overanalyze it and then get in your head even more and lose sleep over it. But if you just really trust your gut, you can't go wrong with trusting your gut all the time, because your gut always knows, especially when you're surfing those bloody big waves in East Timor, mate.
Oh, mate, yeah, definitely one up, mate. You win, Crocs, mate. Don't yeah, gee, you're lucky you didn't get.
Paddleboarding on a croc, mate.
Oh, yeah, there you go. Just holding the top snout.
With a coconut palm as the paddle.
And then throwing some coconuts at the other Crocs so they stay away. Oh, love it. And we're not just like men, right? We're also dads as well. So we're not just making choices for ourselves anymore. And like it or not, our kids are watching us, whether we're at the beach, whether we're in the car, whether we're in the office, right? So every time we ignore a warning, we have to consider, what message are we sending to our kids? Are we teaching them to be courage? Oh, sorry, are we teaching them, courage in that moment, or are we teaching them carelessness, right? So for yourself, Shane, like, how do we balance like adventure and safety, and how would, and you've got Hamish and Cody, and like now with Ezra, right? How do you talk about your kids, or not talk about, how did you talk about the with your older ones? How did you talk about risk and safety with them, or how will you go about it with Ezra without making them feel fearful as well?
Yeah, it's this is probably where it really comes down to, is because we've been talking about all the stuff, but a lot of that stuff comes down to peer pressure. Go out on the rocks, or talk, Carly saying you're going to go surfing, and then a friend, and that ego. But it really comes down to probably the peer pressure of, for me, it was the peer pressure. And I think about another example, again, at the ocean with the surf, some kids jumping off the rocks down here at Wollongong. I'm just like, what are you guys thinking? Like, they were just young teenagers, right? So the peer pressure. So back to your question, is really talking to the kids, or teaching the kids around peer pressure and to speak up for themselves on what they believe is right and what is wrong. If I think about it with Cody and Hamish, I think we're an example. They probably learned through my poor example of, especially around the drinking and the peer pressure of always trying to just fit in and trying to drink and trying to beat party with the boys. That I think they learned from my mistakes, because neither of them drink, and they're pretty sensible. They seem to be pretty sensible around making decisions. So like you say, they're always watching, they're always learning. They either model, or they model, or they get a lesson to be like you, or a lesson to not be like you. And I guess fortunately in that situation, they got a lesson to not be like me through the things that I did. So again, back to the question though, is just conversation around peer pressure and speaking your truth and standing up for what you believe and what you see and what you feel, from a gut perspective.
Yeah, 100%, mate. Like one of the things that we kind of like instill, not want to, but we're working on instilling in our boys is to be what we call upstanders instead of bystanders, right? So, when it comes to someone else, if they see someone else, being intimidated or bullied, then, stand up for them. Let them know. They don't have to like get into a fight or fisticuffs, but just let them know, the other person know that, hey, he's being a douche. Like, are you okay? Right?
Yeah.
Try to remove that person for that situation, but also apply it to themselves as well, right? That they can still be upstanders for themselves and not have to take on all the necessary crap that comes along with it. And one of the, an example of that as well is Leo. Leo he's in what year is in this year? He's in year 4, right? And he's had a good friend for the last, 2 or 3 years in his class. And then this year, this friend all of a sudden become too cool for school, right? And so it's making little snide remarks to Leo and all that kind of stuff, right? But we're instructing Leo to, or we're not instructing, but supporting him by, giving him a couple of things to say back in terms of, hey man, that's not cool what you're sharing right there,
Yeah.
Or even just to remove himself from the situation, or even just be an upstander and speak to the teacher if it requires, right? So because he doesn't have to accept all that behavior going on around him. And that's, a great way. I love that, mate. Like, because peer pressure is something that's always going to be around. Heck, even when you're married.
Don't know what you're talking about, mate.
But as you said, mate, it all instill, and I think you agree, or maybe not, but it comes from the values that you instill in your kids, right?
Yeah. I think the other thing too is to when they do fail, when they do make a mistake on the little things, is teaching them to reflect on how a decision led to that decision, right? So, for example, Ezra's really good at bloody bringing chairs around now and trying to stand on them to open doors, right? This is his thing at the moment. We had to hide some chairs this morning. But he's fallen off the chairs a few times. So it's around like showing them that if you do this, then this is the consequence. So this is why we're talking about Ezra falling off a chair. It's like getting them to think ahead of what actually is the consequence of doing the next thing, which if we use the situation at the moment around people maybe getting swept off rocks is like, hey, if you think about going on those rocks, there's obviously danger there. If you think about climbing the chair, there's danger of falling. If you think about going on the rocks, there's danger. What happens if that wave does come over? And then just sweeps you away, right? So it's getting them to training them, maybe that's the right word, or teaching them how to think ahead on their decisions as well. And unfortunately, we've just got to take a few failures to get that, but teach them off the small failures so they don't get the failure of shit. Now I'm swept out to sea and I'm drowning, and I haven't learned about thinking about the consequences going forward.
Yeah, 100%. And like one thing I'm still learning, and Kylie's really good at this, is like. And as you said, there are going to be failures, right? They are going to mess up. They are going to make mistakes. But we want to, in that scenario, when they do make a mistake, just keep cool and let them know it's okay, right?
Yeah.
So that when they do really mess up big time, that they still come to you,
Yeah.
and have that conversation with you. And 100%, it's all about, as you said there, just how you react to that situation, so that you can educate, you can, provide that lesson that is needed at that time, so that they don't make it again, right?
Yeah.
So cool, my friend. So, guys, Shane, mate, great chat today. Look, we've all seen how easy it is, and we've all experienced how easy it is to ignore warnings, right? Whether it's you're just being blasé about the pounding surf, or you've just turned a blind eye to the red flag in business somewhere, right? But here's the thing: being a dad and a boss isn't about never taking risk. It's about knowing when to step up and when to step back, so that, let's be honest, so that you can make it home to your family and keep building the life that you want. So, guys, happy Easter to everyone. Stay safe, stay smart, and remember, right? Real courage is knowing when to say no. So, catch you next time on DadBods, DadBoss. Oh, poser.